The gavel's echo still haunts Claire Ramsey's dreams. At 45, she's carved a name in Manhattan's cutthroat legal world. Senior partner at Kessler & Klein, where her icy precision in courtrooms leaves opponents trembling. But tonight, her corner office feels like a cage. The city's pulse throbs through the glass walls, honking taxis, the distant wail of a siren, the hum of ambition that never sleeps. Claire's fingers trace the edge of her mahogany desk, her nails clicking faintly against the wood. She's won another case today, a high-profile divorce that'll splash her name across page 6. Yet her chest feels hollow, like the victory's just another tally on a scoreboard no one else is watching. She sighs, a slow, heavy sound that fogs the glass of her whiskey tumbler. The amber liquid burns her throat, but it doesn't fill the ache. Her phone buzzes. Another email from a client demanding her attention. She ignores it. Her eyes drift to the framed photo on her desk. Her and her late brother Michael laughing at Coney Island, his arms slung around her shoulders. 10 years gone, and the grief still lingers like damp air after a storm. Claire doesn't do vulnerability. She doesn't do feelings. Not anymore. The clock ticks past midnight. She grabs her coat, the tailored wool heavy on her shoulders, and steps into the elevator. The descent is silent, save for the faint hum of cables. Outside, the October chill bites her cheeks as she strides down Fifth Avenue, her heels clicking against the pavement like a metronome. She doesn't notice the young woman rushing past her until their shoulders collide. "God, I'm so sorry." The voice is bright, flustered, cutting through the city's drone. Claire turns, ready to snap, but freezes. The woman girl really can't be older than 23. Her auburn hair spills from a messy bun, and her nurse's scrubs are wrinkled, a faint coffee stain on the sleeve. Her eyes, a startling green, hold a warmth Claire hasn't seen in years. "I'm late for my shift," the girl says, catching her breath. "Didn't mean to barrel into you." Claire's lips part, but no words come. She's used to commanding rooms, not this disarray. "It's fine," she manages, her voice clipped. The girl flashes a smile, quick and unguarded, before darting off toward Lenox Hill Hospital. Claire stands there, the stranger's warmth lingering like a phantom touch. She shakes it off, blaming the whiskey, and heads home to her sterile Upper East Side apartment. The next morning, Claire's back in her element. Courtroom 4B. Dismantling a witness with surgical precision. Her client, a tech mogul, watches her with a smirk, but she feels nothing. Victory is routine. As she leaves the courthouse, her phone pings with a text from her paralegal. Pro bono case. Urgent. Hospital visit required. Claire scoffs. She doesn't do pro bono. But the case involves a kid, a hit-and-run victim, and her firm's PR team is pushing for optics. She relents. At Lenox Hill, the antiseptic smell stings her nose. She navigates the bustling corridors, her briefcase swinging like a pendulum. In room 312, she meets her client, a scared 16-year-old boy, his leg in a cast. But it's the nurse who catches her off guard. It's her. The girl from last night, now in fresh scrubs, her name tag reading Sophie Carter. Sophie's tending to the boy, her voice soft as she adjusts his fore. "You're gonna be okay, buddy," she says, ruffling his hair. The kid smiles despite the pain. Claire clears her throat. Sophie looks up and recognition sparks in her eyes. "You're the lawyer," she says, not a question. Claire nods, feeling oddly exposed under Sophie's gaze. "Claire Ramsey," she says, extending a hand. Sophie's grip is firm, her fingers warm. "Sophie, nice to see you upright this time." A playful glint dances in her eyes and Claire's pulse quickens, a sensation she hasn't felt since law school. They talk briefly about the case. Sophie's passion for her patient is palpable. She knows every detail of his chart, his fears, his favorite superhero. Claire, used to cold facts, is thrown by Sophie's intensity. As she leaves, Sophie calls after her. "Hey, you ever smile? Might look good on you." Claire's jaw tightens but her lips twitch. She doesn't reply. That night, Claire can't sleep. Sophie's voice, bright, unfiltered, echoes in her mind. She's not used to this. People don't talk to her like that. They bow, they cower, they beg. But Sophie's different. Claire pours another whiskey, the glass cold against her palm, and stares out at the city skyline. She's built a fortress around her heart, brick by brick, since Michael's death. No one gets in. No one. Yet, as she drifts into uneasy sleep, she sees green eyes and hears a laugh that sounds like hope. Claire's days blur into a rhythm of depositions, briefs, and late-night emails. Her office is a fortress of order. Files stacked neatly, her Montblanc pen aligned perfectly with her notepad. But Sophie Carter's laugh keeps sneaking into her thoughts, uninvited, like a melody she can't shake. It's been a week since their hospital encounter, and Claire's back at Lenox Hill for another meeting about the pro bono case. She tells herself it's just work, but her pulse betrays her as she steps into the pediatric ward. The air smells of disinfectant and something sweeter, lavender, maybe from a diffuser by the nurse's station. Sophie's there, leaning over a chart, her brow furrowed in concentration. Her scrubs are a soft blue today, her hair tied back with a scrunchie that's seen better days. Claire hesitates, her heels clicking too loudly on the linoleum. Sophie looks up, and that damn smile spreads across her face. Back so soon, counselor? Miss me? Claire's throat tightens. I'm here for the case, she says, her voice sharper than intended. Sophie raises an eyebrow, unfazed. Sure. But you're early. Coffee. She gestures to a chipped mug on the counter, steam curling from it. Claire declines, but Sophie's already pouring a second cup. You look like you need it, she says, sliding it over. Their fingers brush as Claire takes the mug, and a jolt runs through her, electric, unsettling. They sit in a cramped break room, the hum of a vending machine filling the silence. Sophie talks about the kid, Tommy, with a fierceness that surprises Claire. He's scared, you know? Parents barely show up. He needs someone to fight for him. Claire nods, her mind half on Tommy, half on the way Sophie's hands move when she talks. Animated, alive. Claire's hands, by contrast, stay folded, her nails digging into her palms. Control. Always control. The meeting with Tommy goes smoothly, but Claire's distracted. Sophie's in the room, checking his chart, her presence a quiet hum in the background. When Tommy cracks a joke about Spider-Man, Sophie laughs, a bright, unguarded sound that makes Claire's chest ache. She catches herself staring and looks away, focusing on her notes. But Sophie notices. You okay, Claire? She asks later as they walk down the hall. The question is soft, but it lands like a punch. No one asks Claire if she's okay. She's the one who fixes things, not the one who breaks. I'm fine, Claire says too quickly. Sophie tilts her head, studying her. You sure? You've got this wall. She gestures vaguely, her fingers tracing an invisible barrier. Claire stiffens. I don't have time for walls, she snaps, but her voice wavers. Sophie doesn't push, just nods and says, if you say so. But I'm around if you need to, I don't know, breathe. That night, Claire's apartment feels colder than usual. The city's lights glitter outside her window, but they don't reach her. She pours a whiskey, then sets it down untouched. Sophie's words echo, if you need to breathe. She doesn't know how to breathe, not really. Not since Michael. Not since she learned that love is a liability. A crack in the armor she spent decades forging. The next day, Claire's in court, shredding a witness with her usual precision. But her mind drifts to Sophie, her scrappy optimism, her warmth. It's dangerous, this pull. Claire's built her life on solitude, on being untouchable. She doesn't date. She doesn't let people in. Especially not someone like Sophie, too young, too bright, too everything. Yet, when she gets a text from an unknown number that evening, hey, it's Sophie. Tommy's asking for you. Got a sec? Claire's heart skips. She shouldn't go. She should delete the message, block the number, keep the walls up. But her fingers hover over the keyboard, and before she knows it, she's typing on my way. At the hospital, Sophie's waiting outside Tommy's room, her face lit by the fluorescent glow. He drew you something. she says, holding out a crayon sketch of a woman in a suit, a superhero cape fluttering behind her. Claire's throat tightens. He thinks you're gonna save him, Sophie adds, her voice soft but piercing. Claire looks at the drawing, then at Sophie, and for the first time in years she feels the walls crack just a little. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting stark shadows on the linoleum. Claire clutches Tommy's crayon drawing, the paper crinkling under her fingers. Sophie's leaning against the wall, her arms crossed, her green eyes searching Claire's face. You didn't have to come, Sophie says, but there's a warmth in her tone, like she's glad Claire did. Claire doesn't respond, just tucks the drawing into her briefcase. Her heart's pounding and she hates it. This loss of control, this feeling. Inside Tommy's room, the kid's propped up on pillows, his eyes bright despite the cast on his leg. You like it? He asks, pointing to the drawing. Claire forces a smile, her lips stiff. It's great, Tommy. Her voice is softer than usual, and Sophie notices, her lips quirking into a half-smile. Claire avoids her gaze, focusing on Tommy's case file instead. She's here for work, she reminds herself. Not for whatever this is. But Sophie's presence is a magnet. As Claire talks to Tommy about the hit-and-run case, Sophie chimes in, filling in gaps about his recovery, her voice steady but laced with care. Their eyes meet briefly, and Claire feels a pull, like gravity shifting under her feet. She excuses herself, muttering about a meeting, and flees to the hallway. The air feels too thick, the antiseptic smell too sharp. She leans against the wall, her breath shallow. Sophie follows. You sure you're okay? She asks, her voice low, like she's coaxing a scared animal. Claire's jaw clenches. I don't need checking up on, she says, but it lacks her usual bite. Sophie steps closer, close enough that Claire smells her faint lavender scent, mixed with coffee and hospital air. Maybe you do, Sophie says, her eyes steady. You carry a lot. I see it. Claire's hands ball into fists. You don't know me. Her voice is a warning, but Sophie doesn't flinch. Maybe not. But I know what it looks like when someone's running from something. The words hit like a slap, and Claire's walls tremble. She wants to snap back to rebuild the fortress, but Sophie's gaze holds her there, raw and exposed. The next few days are torture. Claire throws herself into work, but Sophie's words cling to her like damp clothes. She's in the middle of a deposition when her phone buzzes. Another text from Sophie. Tommy's got a hearing tomorrow. You coming? Claire stares at the screen, her thumb hovering. She shouldn't. She should stay away. But she's at the courthouse the next morning, her suit impeccable, her expression unreadable. Sophie's there too, in the hallway outside the courtroom, her scrubs swapped for jeans and a sweater. She looks younger somehow, her hair loose and catching the light. Didn't expect you, Sophie says, her smile teasing but kind. Claire shrugs, her voice cool. It's my case. But her eyes linger on Sophie's lips, and she curses herself for it. The hearing is a blur. Claire's in her element, her arguments sharp, her presence commanding. The judge grants a settlement for Tommy, a small victory, but enough to keep him in care. Afterward, Sophie finds her outside, the autumn wind tugging at their coats. You were amazing in there, Sophie says, her voice earnest. Claire's chest tightens. Just doing my job, she mutters, but Sophie steps closer, her breath visible in the cold air. You're more than your job, Claire. Sophie's voice is quiet, but it cuts through the city's noise. Honks, shouts, the rustle of leaves skittering across the pavement. Claire freezes, her heart hammering. No one said that to her in years. No one's seen her, not really. She wants to run, to hide, but Sophie's hand grazes her arm, and the touch is an anchor. That night, Claire dreams of Michael, his laugh, his hand ruffling her hair when she was a kid. But the dream shifts, and it's Sophie's face, her green eyes bright with something Claire's too scared to name. She wakes with a start, her sheets tangled, her breath ragged. The city's awake outside, its pulse relentless. Claire stares at the ceiling, her heart a battlefield. She's spent years building walls, but Sophie's chipping away at them, and Claire's not sure she wants to stop her. The city's heartbeat thrums through Claire's office window, but it's Sophie's voice that won't leave her alone. It's been days since the courthouse, since that fleeting touch on her arm, and Claire's unraveling. Her desk is a mess of files, her coffee cold, her focus shot. She's losing her edge and it terrifies her. Control is her currency, her armor, but Sophie slipped past the gates, and Claire doesn't know how to push her out. She avoids the hospital, burying herself in a new case, a corporate merger dry and soulless. But Sophie texts again. Tommy's asking for his superhero. You free? Claire stares at the message, her thumb tracing the screen's edge. She should say no. She should delete the thread. Instead, she's in a cab to Lenox Hill, the city blurring past, her heart pounding like a drum. Sophie's in the pediatric ward, laughing with Tommy over a comic book. The sight stops Claire in her tracks, Sophie's hair catching the light, her laugh a bright note in the sterile air. Tommy spots her first. Miss Claire, he calls, waving a new drawing. It's her again, this time with a shield standing tall. Claire's throat tightens. She's not a hero. She's a lawyer who wins, nothing more. Sophie looks up, her smile softening. You came, she says like it's a gift. Claire shrugs, her voice clipped. Had a gap in my schedule. But Sophie's not buying it. She steps closer, her scrubs brushing Claire's arm. You're here. That's what matters. The words land softly but they burn. Claire's not used to mattering, not like this. They talk about Tommy's case but the conversation drifts. Sophie mentions growing up in Ohio, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Cornfields, fireflies, a family that didn't get her. They wanted me to be someone else, she says, her eyes distant. So I left. Claire listens, her usual defenses quiet. She wants to ask more, to know why Sophie's so open, so unafraid. But she doesn't. Instead she says, I get it. Expectations. Her voice is low, almost a confession. Sophie tilts her head. You don't talk about yourself much, do you? Claire stiffens, her walls snapping back into place. Not much to say. Sophie's eyes narrow but she doesn't push. Instead, she hands Claire a coffee, their fingers brushing again. The touch lingers, warm and dangerous. Claire pulls back, muttering about a meeting, and flees. That night she's restless. The whiskey doesn't help, the city's hum doesn't soothe. She paces her apartment, the hardwood creaking under her bare feet. Sophie's too young, too bright, too everything. Claire's 45, a fortress of sharp suits and sharper words. She doesn't do this, whatever this is. But when her phone pings with another text, meet me for coffee. Not hospital coffee. Real coffee. Her resolve cracks. They meet at a small cafe in the village, the air thick with espresso and cinnamon. Sophie's in a sweater, her hair loose, her eyes brighter than the morning sun. Claire's in her usual armor, tailored blazer, crisp blouse, but she feels exposed. Sophie talks easily about music, about patience, about dreams she's too scared to chase. Claire listens, her coffee untouched, her heart a tangle of want and fear. You're quiet today, Sophie says, her voice gentle. Claire's fingers tighten around her mug. I'm always quiet. Sophie laughs, a soft sound that cuts through the cafe's hum. Not true. You're loud when you're fighting for someone. I saw you in court. Claire's chest aches. No one sees her like that, not her colleagues, not her clients. Just Sophie. The conversation shifts and Sophie's hand brushes Claire's on the table. It's deliberate this time, and Claire doesn't pull away. The touch is a spark, igniting something she's buried for years. Why do you care? Claire asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Sophie's eyes soften. Because I see you, Claire. Not the lawyer. You. The words are a knife, cutting through her defenses, and Claire's breath catches. She leaves the cafe in a daze, the city's noise a dull roar in her ears. Sophie's words echo relentless. Claire spent years running from herself, from the grief, from the fear of being seen. But Sophie's not running. And for the first time, Claire wonders if she could stop, too. Claire's world is tilting. The cafe meeting with Sophie lingers like the scent of rain on asphalt, heavy and inescapable. She's back in her office, the city's skyline a glittering accusation through the glass. Her fingers hover over a contract, but her mind's elsewhere. On Sophie's laugh, her touch, the way she said, "I see you." It's been 3 days and Claire's avoiding her phone, where Sophie's last text sits unanswered. "You okay? Miss our coffee talks." She's not okay. She's unraveling, threads of control slipping through her fingers. At 45, Claire's built a life on certainty. Cases won, walls up, emotions locked away. But Sophie, 23 and fearless, is a storm tearing through her defenses. Claire's never let anyone close. Not since Michael's death stole the last piece of her heart. Love is a risk, a loss waiting to happen. Yet Sophie's different, her warmth, her honesty, her infuriating hope. Claire throws herself into work, but it's no use. She's distracted in a boardroom, her voice faltering mid-argument. Her colleagues exchange glances and she hates it. Their pity, their curiosity. She's Claire Ramsey, the ice queen of Kessler and Klein, not some lovesick fool. But when Sophie texts again, "Tommy's getting discharged soon. Party at the ward. You in?" Claire's resolve crumbles. The pediatric ward is chaos, balloons, laughter, the sugary scent of cupcakes. Tommy's beaming, his cast covered in signatures. Sophie's in the middle of it, her hair tied back, her smile brighter than the fluorescent lights. She spots Claire and waves her over. "You made it," she says, her voice warm over the chatter. Claire, in her tailored coat, feels out of place, but Sophie's hand on her arm grounds her. "Tommy wanted you here," Sophie says, then lowers her voice. "And maybe I did too." Claire's heart stutters. She mumbles something about work, but Sophie's not listening. She's pulling Claire into the fray, handing her a cupcake with blue frosting. Their fingers brush and Claire's skin hums. She's not used to this joy-chaos connection. Tommy tugs at her sleeve, showing off his new Spider-Man toy. Claire smiles, a real one, and Sophie catches it, her eyes sparkling. Later, they step into the hallway, the noise fading behind them. The air smells of antiseptic and sugar, and Sophie's close, too close. "You're different here," Sophie says, her voice soft. "Less guarded." Claire's throat tightens. "I don't know how to be anything else," she admits, the words spilling out before she can stop them. Sophie's gaze softens. "You don't have to know. Just try." The moment stretches, heavy with possibility. Claire's heart pounds, her walls crumbling under Sophie's steady gaze. She wants to lean in, to close the distance, but fear claws at her. She's too old, too broken, too wrong for someone like Sophie. Yet, when Sophie's hand brushes hers again, deliberate and warm, Claire doesn't pull away. That night, Claire's apartment feels like a tomb. She paces, the city's hum a distant pulse. She thinks of Michael, of his laugh, of the way he'd tell her to stop hiding. She thinks of Sophie, of green eyes and fearless hope. Her phone buzzes. "Sophie again, you ran off. Everything okay?" Claire's fingers tremble as she types, "Can we talk?" "Not at the hospital." They meet at a park the next morning, the air crisp with autumn. Leaves crunch under their feet, and the city's awake. Joggers, dogs, the distant honk of a cab. Sophie's in a hoodie, her cheeks pink from the cold. Claire's in her usual armor, but her hands are unsteady. "I'm not good at this," Claire says, her voice raw. "At feeling things." Sophie steps closer, her breath visible in the chill. "You don't have to be good at it. Just be honest." Claire's chest aches. She wants to say everything about Michael, about the fear, about the way Sophie's unraveling her. Instead, she says, "I'm scared." The words are a confession, a crack in the fortress. Sophie's hand finds hers, warm and steady. "Me too," she whispers. "But I'm here." And for the first time in years, Claire believes it. The park's morning air is sharp, carrying the scent of damp leaves and coffee from a nearby cart. Claire's hand is still in Sophie's, their fingers intertwined, and it feels like a lifeline. She's trembling, not from the cold but from the weight of her own words. I'm scared. She's never said that out loud, not to anyone. Sophie's green eyes hold hers, steady and unafraid. And Claire feels the ground shift beneath her. I don't know how to do this, Claire says, her voice barely above the rustle of leaves. Sophie squeezes her hand. You don't have to. We'll figure it out. The "we" hits Claire like a wave, warm and terrifying. She's spent years alone, her heart a locked vault, but Sophie's picking the lock with every word, every touch. They walk, their steps slow, the city waking around them. A dog barks, a jogger's sneakers slap the pavement, and Claire's hyper-aware of Sophie's warmth beside her. Why me? Claire asks, her voice raw. You're young. You could have anyone. Sophie stops, turning to face her. Because you're real, Claire. You're fierce and stubborn and you care. Even if you hide it. Her voice softens. I see you. Claire's breath catches. No one's seen her. Not since Michael, not since she buried her heart with him. She wants to argue, to push Sophie away, but the words won't come. Instead, she lets Sophie pull her to a bench, the wood cold under her thighs. They sit, shoulders brushing, and Sophie talks. About her dreams of opening a clinic, about the patients who keep her up at night, about the fear of not being enough. Claire listens, her walls crumbling with every word. I lost my brother, Claire says suddenly, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. 10 years ago. Car accident. Her voice cracks and she hates it, but Sophie's hand tightens around hers. He was my anchor. After him I didn't want to feel anything. Sophie's quiet, letting the confession settle. Then softly, I'm so sorry, Claire. But you're still here. You're allowed to feel again. The words are a knife, sharp and healing. Claire's eyes burn and she blinks hard, refusing to cry. Sophie's thumb brushes her knuckles, a small gesture that feels like everything. They sit in silence, the city's pulse a backdrop to their shared stillness. For the first time, Claire doesn't feel alone. Days pass and Sophie becomes a constant. Texts that make Claire smile, coffee runs that stretch into hours, stolen moments in hospital corridors. Claire's still in court, still winning cases, but her edges are softer. Her colleagues notice, whispering about the new Claire. She ignores them, but the truth is undeniable. Sophie's changing her. One evening, Sophie invites her to a dive bar in Brooklyn, the kind of place Claire would never step foot in. The air smells of beer and fried food, the jukebox blaring a Springsteen song. Sophie's in a flannel, her hair loose, laughing as she drags Claire to a dartboard. Bet I can beat you, she teases, her eyes bright. Claire scoffs, but she's smiling, her guard down. They play and Sophie's terrible, her darts missing the board entirely. Claire laughs, a real unguarded laugh, and Sophie beams like she's won. Later they're outside, the night air cool, the city humming. Sophie's close, her breath warm against Claire's cheek. You're beautiful when you laugh, she says, and Claire's heart stops. She wants to run, to hide, but Sophie's hand cups her face, gentle and sure. The kiss is soft at first, tentative, then deeper, a spark igniting into flame. Claire's walls collapse and she kisses back, her hands trembling against Sophie's waist. They pull apart, breathless, the city spinning around them. I'm too old for you, Claire whispers, her voice shaking. Sophie grins, undeterred. You're perfect for me. And in that moment, Claire believes her. The fear's still there, but it's quieter, drowned out by the warmth of Sophie's touch, the promise of something new. They walk back to Claire's apartment, hands linked, the night alive with possibility. For the first time in years, Claire feels like she's breathing. Claire's apartment is no longer a fortress. The sterile silence is broken by Sophie's laugh, her shoes kicked off by the door, her jacket slung over a chair. It's been a week since their kiss, and Sophie's become a fixture. Her toothbrush in the bathroom, her coffee mug on the counter, her warmth in Claire's bed. The city's hum is softer now, a backdrop to their quiet mornings, where Sophie hums off-key while making toast and Claire pretends to read case files, stealing glances over her coffee. But the fear lingers. Claire's 45, her life a carefully constructed tower of control. Sophie's 23, a whirlwind of hope and chaos, and Claire's terrified she'll ruin her. At night when Sophie's asleep, her head on Claire's chest, Claire stares at the ceiling, her mind racing. What happens when Sophie realizes Claire's too broken, too guarded? What happens when the age gap becomes a chasm? She doesn't voice these fears, but Sophie senses them. One morning over pancakes at a diner, the air thick with syrup and grease, Sophie reaches for Claire's hand. "You're doing it again," she says, her voice gentle but firm. "Building walls." Claire's jaw tightens, her fork pausing midair. "I'm not," she lies, but Sophie's eyes see through her. "You are." "Talk to me, Claire." The words spill out before Claire can stop them. About Michael, about the guilt that's haunted her since his death, about the fear of losing Sophie too. Her voice cracks, raw and unsteady, and the diner's noise, clinking plates, murmured conversations fades. Sophie listens, her hand steady on Claire's, her eyes soft but unwavering. "You're not gonna lose me," she says. "I'm in this, okay? All of it." Claire wants to believe her, but doubt is a stubborn shadow. At work, she's sharper than ever, winning a high-stakes case that lands her firm $1 million client. But the victory feels hollow. Her colleagues toast her at a rooftop bar, the city sparkling below, but Claire's mind is on Sophie, who's working a double shift. She leaves early, ignoring their raised eyebrows, and heads to the hospital. Sophie's in the break room, her scrubs rumpled, her eyes tired but bright when she sees Claire. "You're here," she says, her voice a mix of surprise and joy. Claire shrugs, her heart pounding. "Couldn't stay away." They steal a moment, their foreheads touching, the hum of the vending machine a soft underscore. Sophie's breath is warm, her fingers tracing Claire's jaw. "You're enough, you know," she whispers. "Just you." The words crack something open in Claire. She's spent years believing she's not enough. Not for Michael, not for herself, not for anyone. But Sophie's here, seeing her, loving her, and it's overwhelming. They kiss, soft and desperate, and Claire feels the last of her walls give way. But the world isn't kind to love like theirs. At a firm gala, Claire brings Sophie as her date, her arm around her waist, a quiet act of defiance. The room buzzes with whispers about their age difference, their relationship, Claire's softened edges. A senior partner pulls her aside, his voice low. "Be careful, Ramsey. This could hurt your reputation." Claire's jaw tightens, but she doesn't flinch. "My reputation's fine," she says, her voice steel. She finds Sophie by the bar, laughing with a waiter, and pulls her onto the dance floor. The music swells, and for once, Claire doesn't care who's watching. Later, they're on Claire's balcony. The city's lights a constellation below. Sophie's head rests on Claire's shoulder, her breath warm against her neck. "You were brave tonight," Sophie says. Claire's heart skips. "I'm not brave," she murmurs. "I'm just with you." Sophie smiles, her fingers lacing through Claire's. "That's enough." But doubt creeps back. Claire's past is a weight, her fears a shadow. She wonders if love is enough, if she's enough. Sophie's hand tightens as if sensing her thoughts, and Claire leans into her. The city's pulse a quiet promise. For now it's enough. For now they're enough. The city never sleeps, but Claire's learning to rest. Sophie's presence is a rhythm now, her laugh in the morning, her hand in Claire's at night, her voice a soft anchor in the chaos. It's been months since the gala, since Claire chose Sophie over whispers and warnings. Her life's different now, softer around the edges, but the fear still lingers, a quiet hum beneath her pulse. There in Claire's apartment, the air warm with the scent of Sophie's cooking, burnt garlic and basil, a failed attempt at pasta. Sophie's laughing, her hair dusted with flour, and Claire's watching from the counter, her heart full. "You're terrible at this," Claire teases, her voice lighter than it's been in years. Sophie grins, tossing a dish towel at her. "You love it." And Claire does. God, she does. But love doesn't erase the past. Claire's still haunted by Michael's death, by the guilt of surviving when he didn't. She's opened up to Sophie about it, piece by piece, but some wounds are too deep to heal completely. One night after a long case, Claire finds a photo of Michael tucked in a drawer. The grief hits like a wave, and she's sobbing before she can stop herself, the sound raw and jagged. Sophie finds her, curled on the couch, the photo clutched to her chest. She doesn't say anything, just sits beside her, her hand warm on Claire's back. "I miss him," Claire whispers, her voice breaking. Sophie nods, her eyes soft. "I know. And it's okay to miss him. It doesn't mean you're broken." Claire leans into her, the tears slowing, and Sophie's arms are a haven, steady and sure. The city's challenges don't stop. Claire's firm is thriving, but the whispers persist about her relationship, her priorities, her distraction. A rival lawyer tries to undermine her in court, hinting at her personal life. Claire shuts it down with a glare and a razor-sharp argument, but it stings. She's used to being untouchable, but loving Sophie makes her vulnerable, and she's still learning to live with that. Sophie, too, faces her own battles. She's pushing for a promotion at the hospital, but her youth and outspokenness make her a target. Claire sees the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her smile falters after a long shift. One evening, Sophie breaks down, her voice trembling as she talks about a patient she couldn't save. Claire holds her, her own fears quieted by the need to be strong for Sophie. "You're enough," Claire says, echoing Sophie's words from months ago. And she means it. They find balance in the small moments, walks in Central Park, late-night talks over wine, stolen kisses in hospital corridors. Claire's learning to laugh again, to let go of control, to let love in. Sophie's teaching her, not with words but with her presence, her courage, her heart. They're not perfect. Claire's still guarded, Sophie's still impulsive, but they're real, and that's enough. One crisp October morning, a year after they met, they're back at the park where it all began. The leaves are turning, the air sharp with autumn. Claire's in a sweater, her armor left at home, and Sophie's in a scarf, her cheeks pink. They sit on their bench, the one from that first morning, and Claire takes Sophie's hand. "I was lost before you," she says, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. You brought me back." Sophie's eyes glisten, her smile soft. "You were never lost, Claire. Just waiting." She leans in, their lips meeting in a kiss that tastes of coffee and promise. The city hums around them. Honks, laughter, the rustle of leaves, but they're in their own world, two hearts beating as one. Claire doesn't have all the answers. The fear's still there, the grief, the uncertainty. But as she holds Sophie, the morning sun warm on their faces, she knows one thing. Love is worth the risk. It's messy, it's scary, it's real. And it's theirs. For the first time in years, Claire feels whole. Not because Sophie fixed her, but because Sophie showed her she was never broken. Just human.